welcome. You're watching India Ahead News. Today we're speaking to Vidhie Mukerjea. Vidhie is the daughter of Indrani Mukerjea and Peter Mukerjea. Indrani and Peter have been in the spotlight for their alleged involvement in the sensational Sheena Bora murder case. Vidhie has now come out with her own book, which is called Devil's Daughter, which chronicles her journey since her mother Indrani Mukerjea's arrest. We talked to her about the book, her journey since then, and where she stands right now. So, Vidhie, tell us who you are and a little bit about the book that you've come out with recently.
So my name is Vidhie Mukerjea, and I just recently wrote a book called Devil's Daughter, which is basically about my journey about the last 6 years. It started when on the 25th of August, one day before my 18th birthday, my mum got arrested. And actually I came home from school and I just saw a bunch of cops at the house, and I had no idea what was going on. And later I found out because it was for some really serious charges. And a couple of months after that, my father got arrested as well. So I was in London in university, and it's been a hell of a journey, as you can imagine, So in the midst of the pandemic, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was not really in the best headspace either. So I kind of just decided to get on my laptop and start typing and seeing what happens. And all I can say is I don't remember those 2 months, because I finished my entire manuscript in 2 months. It was like I was in a trance and didn't really know how much I had to say.
You came out with a book, I believe, in August 2021?
Yes, August 16th.
Right. What has the response been like? And have your parents gotten a chance to read it yet?
Yeah, so the response actually is so good, and it's just so overwhelming because before it released, I was quite confused, and I really had no idea how people were gonna react, especially the media. So once it was out, the messages just kept flooding in, through my Instagram, through my Gmails, and it made me realize how much people opened up to me and how much they kind of had faith in my story, which really empowered me all the more it needed to. And regard for my parents, yes, they have read it. My dad, I think he loves it. He's like my biggest cheerleader, so he kind of really loved it. He really encouraged me to write, like years ago. And my mother, she has read it. I think we are, in the process of kind of talking about certain things in the book. I think she wishes that I consulted her on a few things before, but overarchingly, she's quite proud of me, I think.
In the book, you describe in a lot of detail what your reaction was in the first couple of months, and eventually the process you went, like the whole journey that you went through. I want you to tell me in brief about how the initial reaction is different from what you think about the incident now.
So obviously when this first happened, I really didn't know how to kind of react to any of it, right? So most of it was just me kind of escaping into oblivion. And I really didn't want to confront anything that was happening. And when I did start confronting it, it kind of all came crashing down. And I really kind of hated myself for a really long time because this was happening to me. And I blamed myself and everything around me, because I didn't know what to think at that point. And but obviously it was a gradual process. Now I'm not at that place anymore, and now I kind of feel almost empowered by my story and just everything that's happened to me and my family.
In the book, you had also mentioned multiple times that growing up, you'd heard your mother say that everything she does it for you. And you've briefly mentioned how it seemed like a burden a bunch of times. I would like to ask you, firstly, how do you feel about that now? Does it still seem like a burden? And secondly, if that's something that you've gotten to address, I mean, not only what you feel and also with your mother, is that something that you've addressed?
So Earlier, when obviously I heard that, as I've written in my book, I did think it was quite unfair when I started to understand what that meant. But I also, in the process, realized that it's something that's said by parents, very casually in all around the world. I mean, most parents have a habit of telling their kids that everything that they've done is for them. So it wasn't only to do with my mom. I realized that most parents are like this, and kind of almost how wrong it is to put that pressure onto them, I don't even think they probably realize that it sounds manipulative, or they probably mean it out of genuine concern. But for a kid to hear that, I think it comes across very kind of mean in a way, because you don't know what to think, and you grow up your entire life thinking that this is all down for me, and it's quite a big burden. But now I'm not at that place anymore, because I've understood that it's not our parents' faults. It's probably something that's been passed through generations of parents saying, everything that we've done is for you.
You've written in detail about the media, about how that traumatized you in various ways, how they asked you intrusive questions, how columns were written about you, and the whole spectrum of it. I want to know, what has been your interactions with the media in recent times been like? Because you've come out with a book, you've been contacted again, and in some ways you've opened that door again for people to actually come to you and ask you questions, maybe sometimes intrusive, maybe not. Are you dealing better with those questions? Have they been more sensitive this time around? What has that been like?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. All in all, I think the media has been definitely more sensitive towards, my book and my story. But obviously, there are a couple of rotten eggs that always pop up. I think there's always going to be a stigma of trying to kind of attach it to my mom or try to attach it to the case. And it's interesting because they do it in very clever ways. They ask the same question kind of in different ways. But I think I've got a grip of myself now, and I'm better prepared on how to, deal with the media.
Do you think your outlook towards it has changed a little bit? Do you deal with awkward questions better, something that you were shying away from earlier?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think I know how to take on awkward questions really well now. And I don't know, I welcome it.
So, Vidhi, you talk about your relationship with your mother and how the whole dynamic has been changing ever since the incident happened. From when your father got arrested, to forgiveness, and you mentioned it, how important a role forgiveness played in the whole journey. What is your relationship with her right now like? And if you could just also briefly tell us about the relationship that's changed from then to now.
Sure. So currently, me and my mother, actually, we do speak we speak twice a week, and I would say it's in a place where it's a complicated relationship. I won't lie about that, and it's something that we're both trying to figure out. And I think quite a lot of people have or would judge me for being in touch with her and trying to kind of build my relationship with her at this point, because I truly believe that empathy is such an important role to play in any kind of relationship, good, bad, or ugly, because it takes a lot of strength to kind of be in that place, And just for me, what had me going was thinking about my mom in really tough situations from the time she was a kid. And what I think it is that most people, are judging from the outside because they see a certain image of my mother on the media, right? And I have known her my entire life, so I know a different version of her. I know a different side of her. She's my mother at the end of the day. So I truly believe in giving her a chance and understanding her, and to my best ability. I mean, I would really like to be there for her as well, because I mean, in her situation, it must be so incredibly tough too.
Tell me a little bit about the title of the book, how you came up with it, how did you come up with the book name, and what does it mean?
Sure. So, I mean, Devil's Daughter is definitely an interesting title. And it came up basically in conversation with my partner. And when it came up, I absolutely fell in love with it, because my first thought, it didn't really go to a specific person. Many would assume that I'm kind of referring to my mother. And it's actually it reflects how I was viewed. Because by many people, I came across as the devil's child, and that reflects on the society that I live in, the media, the law, and it's ultimately how I began to view my own self. So, the title of the book is so deep and beautiful and creative to me.
Like, I'm 26, so this question comes from that. I mean, we're very similar aged in that sense. You were very young when you went through something very traumatic, and I think it does leave some sort of a lasting impression on anybody's mind. It would on anybody's mind, right? What would your advice be to 20 something year olds who are navigating life, who do have like an entire life ahead of them, and yet have already gone through so much? What would your advice be to such people?
Yeah, great question. So I've realized, like, when most people face anxiety or depression, they instantly look for relief in external things like medication or therapy or even just talking to a friend. And that's what I did as well. I had my fair share of distractions all the time, constantly looking for relief in my pain. And the day I started getting better was when I really kind of spent time by myself. It was one of the hardest things to do because it really confuses you. Your own mind can play so many tricks on you that you really start to get in a very self-deprecating habit, which is okay because it's meant to happen. I remember it kept getting worse until the day it got better. And the best advice that I can give, I don't know if it works for people, is to kind of just keep giving the work, putting the work in to know yourself better, understand the true meaning of solitude, and essentially just become friends with your anxiety. Become friends with your demons, because anxiety never leaves. It's always gonna lurk in your mind. You just have to keep trying to work with it and understand it. What this book showed me is that people really want to talk, but they don't have an avenue, because mental health is still such a taboo topic in India, and we're still so ashamed to kind of tell people that we're not okay. And I really want to enforce the idea that it's okay not to be okay. You can't be okay all the time, because then life would be so boring. And I really look at my trauma seriously. I look at my trauma as, it's a journey in itself. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and I'm learning so much out of it. Any bad thing that comes along in my way, I respect it, and I just deal with it until it passes, and then I reflect on it. So I think, yeah, a big kind of another advice would just be to constantly reflect on things, not so much that you're falling into bad habits of thinking about the past, but just so that you're aware and you're learning from mistakes or past events or anything that's kind of made you uncomfortable.